Hello everyone. So it's time for another weekly reads, and I have quite a few books to update you on. First of all, I did finish How the One-Armed Sister Sweeps Her House by Cherie Jones, and I have my vlog for Invisible Cities app, in which I discussed that book among others. And yeah, I liked it. I think it was quite impactful, but at the same time, the way the story was written was not exactly how I would have preferred it. It was sort of set off as a mystery. This book is about basically a woman that is in Barbados, and she goes through a lot of hardship, and among that is like losing her child, and there's this mystery of how she lost her child. And that mystery aspect didn't work for me. So yeah, it was a bit of a mixed bag for me, but overall I enjoyed it. I can see why people like it. I can see why people don't like it. So that's the status. And then the other one that I was reading last week was 1Q84 by Murakami. This is a trilogy actually, and these are the first two books, and this one is the last book. And I have finished the first two books. I am about a third of the way in the third book. And this series follows two characters mainly. The third book follows a third one, but I will not talk about that one because it might be spoilers. But it mostly follows two characters, Aomame and Tengo. So Tengo is high school teacher, grammar school teacher, and a writer. And Aomame is trainer in a gym, she's an instructor. And at first their lives seem separate, but then they get tangled together. And the tangled together part, it's mostly from this book that a 17-year-old wrote, and the story was very compelling, but the writing itself was really bad. So Tengo was commissioned to rewrite the story as a ghostwriter, so that it is more impactful and can be presented to prizes and stuff. So they both become entangled into that book and that story. And there's a lot of magical realism going on, and that's why it's called 1Q84, because it's an alternative 1984. I'm enjoying. I have to say the second book had a lot of very uncomfortable sexual talk, especially about the 17-year-old girl and her boobs and how pretty she is. That was very uncomfortable, and like in general, there's a love story that happens in the second book, and yeah, that was my least favorite so far. But the story itself, I always have that love-hate thing with Murakami, that the story itself is really good, but there are some things like teenage boy mind kind of things that make me really uncomfortable. But yeah, I'm enjoying it so far, and I would probably be finishing this week because I only have 200 something pages, and this was my reread for this month. And then other than that, I read other two books, very small books. The first one was A Pale View of Hills by Kazuo Ishiguro, and this one is about a woman that is Japanese but moves to the UK, and then her daughter grows up in the UK, and that kind of imbalance, and also the fact that the woman that moves to the UK, she was in Japan during the Second World War, and she was from, I think, Nagasaki, so like the aftermath of the war. And I thought that for me this book was okay. I found the perspective when they were in the UK a lot more interesting than in Japan. I think that what I like about Kazuo Ishiguro's books is how quintessentially British they are, and I know he was born in Japan and then he moved to the UK when he was like 5 or something, so this story is probably based on his mother. But yeah, that evocative sense, like for example, the remains of the day, for me feels so quintessentially British. That's what I like about it. And because this one was set in Japan, I will rather read about Japan from a Japanese writer that has lived in Japan his whole life, like Murakami or like I don't know, other other writers that have a more Japanese way of telling me things, because that's what I want to do when I read about Japan. So in that sense, it was not as satisfactory for me, just because the elements that I like about Kazuo Ishiguro's writing were not as much there. I think he didn't have the poignant commentary that he has when he writes about Britain, because maybe he doesn't know that society as much. And I think that also the way that he writes about British culture is like from inside, but at the same time he also has a bit of a distance to it, because his family is not from Britain, so he can see more things than a British person could, if that makes sense. And in this case, I think that was missing. So I enjoyed the story and everything, but I think that atmosphere, that is what I look for in Kazuo Ishiguro's books, was not there as much. And then the other book that I read was Intimations by Zadie Smith. This is a short non-fiction essay collection. It's 6 essays, and they were written at the beginning of the pandemic. So it's a bit about how Zadie Smith perceived the pandemic when it was starting. And first of all, she was in New York when this happened, which is something I did not expect, because Zadie Smith is British. But I think that also it's kind of dated already. Like, the perception that she has is very surface level, because that's what we all could do at that time. I'm not saying that she didn't have more in-depth thoughts now, but a year after that, those writings feel very surface level. Like, they do not go in depth to the impact of the pandemic as much. It's more about the fact that we couldn't go shopping whenever we wanted, or the fact that all the streets were empty, which is something that happened and shocked all of us at the time. But at this point, it's like, it's not that shocking anymore. So yeah, that one was also a bit of a dud for me, just because I think it's quite dated already. And then for next week, I have quite a lot of possibilities. I went to the library this week actually, and I got some books, so I have those for following reads. I did take 2 that are going to be for Invisible Cities for next month, so I'm not going to read them yet, and that's Heretic by Ayaan Hirsi, which is about Islam and how to modernize Islam, sort of. And this is my pick for Ethiopia. And Ayaan Hirsi, that's her. I believe she had to flee Ethiopia, and she lives now in the Netherlands. So yeah, I'm looking forward to that one. And then for Israel for next month, I picked up All the Rivers by Dorit Rabinyan, which is about someone from Israel and someone from Palestine that fall in love. I think it's a love story. I'm not sure how I'm going to like this one, because I'm not generally into love stories, but I'm hoping that it's a lot more deeper than that, just because Israel and Palestine, so probably it's going to discuss that, hopefully. We will see, but it's quite short, so I think it will be fine. And then I have another 3 books that I want to read sooner than that. The first one is Patsy by Nicole Dennis-Benn. I read Here Comes the Sun from her, and I really liked it. And this one is about a Jamaican woman that moves to the US to follow her female lover, and leaves her daughter behind in Jamaica. And it's kind of about the relationship with both this other woman and her daughter. So yeah, I really liked Here Comes the Sun. I think she has a quite compelling writing style while still discussing important topics. So I'm looking forward to this, and I picked this one up especially because now I think Caribathon is finished, but I read how the One Armed Sister Sweeps Her House, and I haven't read any other Caribbean author this month, so I thought I would pick something up, even if it's not Caribathon, it's still Caribbean Heritage Month, so I'm going to read that one. And then I picked up The Pull of the Stars by Emma Donoghue. I have heard good things about this one. I know it's about a plague, which I'm not sure if it's the right time, but I think now that things are easing a bit, I think it might be interesting to read, and it's also in the Booktop Prize. I'm not judging this month, but I thought I will have a head start for the next time, so I will be reading this one. And then the other one that I have is The Whole Woman by Germaine Greer. And this one is a feminist text. I am not sure exactly like what I think it's quite comprehensive. This was first published in 1999, and it's divided in like body, mind, love, and power. And I just heard this mentioned in some other book I was reading, and I thought I would pick it up and see what it's about. So yeah, those are the books I picked up from the library. And then I also have two books that I picked up in my birthday last year. I have a haul for that, and I picked these two up. And I just want to read them before my birthday is time again. And the first one is The View from Africa, which is a Granta magazine volume that has several short stories from different African writers. And I think that will be good for like combining with other things. And the other one I have is Blonde Roots by Bernardine Evaristo, which is about an imaginary world in which like Africa colonized Europe and they got slaves from Europe. So like changing the narrative, flipping the narrative, which will be interesting I think as well. I'm not sure because I have a complicated relationship with Bernardine Evaristo as well, but I'm hoping that I will like this one. So yeah, those are my plans for next week. My pile of possibilities. Also next week I'm getting my first coronavirus vaccine, which I'm very excited about. And yeah, that's basically it. I hope you enjoyed this video. Let me know what you have read this week. Let me know if you have read any of the books I've mentioned, and if you would want me to read any specific ones, the ones I've mentioned that I have from the library and I have bought. And yeah, until next video.